government relief, and the government as well as the public have an obligation towards them. He said that if the necessary funds cannot be acquired through taxes, then the next alternative is to print money. He said that the food inflation is currently at 100%. Therefore, printing of money could lead to another massive price hike in goods and services.
A petition challenging the Inland Revenue Amendment draft bill presented by the government to the Parliament was filed before the Supreme Court, citing that the draft bill is inconsistent with the Constitution. The Attorney General has been named as the respondent. A general manager of an apparel factory and a resident in Homagama area, U.S. Ranavira, has filed the relevant petition. The petition has indicated that the government has reduced the minimum taxable income of a person from 250,000 rupees to 100,000 rupees. The petitioner has indicated that this move would place a heavy tax burden on the public already affected by the economic crisis. The petition has further indicated that the new income tax proposals discourage many sectors in the country, including exports, local industries and developmental activities. The petitioner has pointed out that the proposed income tax revisions to the Inland Revenue Amendment draft bill are a serious violation of the government's obligations to guarantee social security and ensure public welfare pursuant to the Constitution. Accordingly, the petitioner has requested the Supreme Court to determine that the draft bill should be passed by a two-thirds majority in the Parliament and a public referendum. Now, in the meantime, 429 HIV-infected persons have been detected in the country during the past 9 months. National Sexually Transmitted Diseases and AIDS Control Program has indicated that the infections have doubled this year compared to the previous year. The infected people include 16 university students and 3 school students. 95% of the cases have been reported from unprotected sexual activities. HIV/AIDS infection occurs through 3 main ways of blood transfusion from an infected individual, from an infected mother to her newborn child, and unprotected sex. If an individual infected with HIV/AIDS fails to receive proper treatment, the disease will develop within 5 to 10 years while affecting the immunity system and reaches the stage AIDS. Director of National STD AIDS Control Program, Dr. Asanjali Hettiarachchi, pointed out that the trend to transmit the disease from an infected mother to her newborn child has been eradicated from Sri Lanka. At least 429 people infected with HIV/AIDS have been diagnosed within the last 9 months of this year. The number of HIV/AIDS infected cases reported in the year 2021 was 410. According to the National STD AIDS Control Program, the number of HIV/AIDS infections reported within the age group of 18 to 30 has reached 148 thus far.
A ship carrying 12,500 metric tons of urea fertilizer required for the Maha season arrived in the island from China last night.
The second ship carrying 120,000 metric tons of urea fertilizer is expected to arrive in the country during the final week of next month. The Ministry of Agriculture has indicated that the fertilizer requirement for the Maha season will be fulfilled with the arrival of the second consignment. So far, the government possesses 34,000 metric tons of urea fertilizer. The Ministry of Agriculture said that 40,000 metric tons of Bundy fertilizer required for paddy cultivation will be acquired in the final week of the next month. The World Bank extended $110 million worth loan assistance to Sri Lanka for the purchasing of urea fertilizer required for the Maha season. Minister Mahinda Amaravira said that steps were taken to bring down urea fertilizer required for Maha season based on the first submitted tender bid for the purchasing of fertilizer. Steps have been taken to distribute the first consignment of urea to all agrarian services centers, even though the paddy cultivation for the Maha season is yet to begin. Special discussion will be held tomorrow over the unloading and distribution of urea fertilizer received last night. In the meantime, Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapakse says a special parliamentary committee should be appointed proposing electoral reforms for the local government bodies, provincial councils and parliament, and make necessary recommendations.
In a letter to the Speaker, the Minister has pointed out that the need to amend the existing electoral system, which has emerged based on various factors. When appointing a parliamentary special committee, the Speaker must name its chairman and the parliamentarians as members. The letter has further indicated that the number of members should not exceed 21 based on parliamentary standing orders. The committee will have the power to summon any individual or order any individual to hand over any related documents for its reference. The committee can seek the assistance of experts in the field. The committee also has the power to conduct meetings during the periods of parliamentary adjournments or term conclusions. The committee will be responsible to submit a report within 6 months from the first meeting or a period extended by the Parliament. The Minister has emphasized that it is suitable to submit recommendations within 2 weeks regarding a suitable methodology for the local government electoral system.
Laws and regulations relevant for future tasks of the Colombo Port City project have been formulated. State Minister Dillu Mamanugama said that both local and foreign investors now have the ability to commence their projects accordingly. The minister engaged in an observation tour at the Colombo Port City project today. Several leading investment companies have already shown interest and agreed to commence projects in Colombo Port City. The first phase of the project is expected to be completed within the next 5 years. State Minister Dillu Mamanugama said that 6 investors are ready to commence their relevant projects. He added that the necessary laws and regulations will be published in the Gazette after the ministry received them accordingly.
Foreign Employment Bureau says the remittances of the migrant workers for the month of September has increased by $34 million, which is a 10% increase. The foreign remittances earned for the month of September is at $359 million. Foreign remittances, which is considered the leading foreign exchange earner of the country, covered 80% of the annual trade deficit in the last 2 decades. 29,072 persons left the country in the month of September for foreign employment. The youth segment in the country has begun to migrate for employment opportunities in the aftermath of the Easter Sunday attacks 2019, the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic and political setback prevailing in the country at present. Foreign countries have also increased their employment quota for Sri Lanka. Accordingly, employment opportunities have been extended from Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Oman, Qatar, Japan, South Korea and Romania. Even though migrant workers used improper channels to send remittances to the country in the recent past, they have now diverted back to legal and proper channels to send their earnings with the present stability in the country.
Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardene extended his gratitude to the Netherlands for the assistance provided to infrastructure development and agriculture, as well as various other sectors. He urged for technical know-how and more investments in agriculture, information technology, renewable energy, transport and tourism. This was stated when the Ambassador of Netherlands called on him at the temple trees in Colombo today. The Dutch ambassador said Sri Lanka has vast potential in many areas, including information technology, tourism and agriculture. She said that she was confident that her country would undertake more projects once the global economic situation eases. The Prime Minister explained the Grow Food programs undertaken by the government at 14,000 Grama Sevaka divisions. The Premier said that in addition to the Maha season of paddy, cultivation of many other crops in hitherto uncultivated lands is likely to provide a good yield by the first quarter of the next year. Ambassador Hobart said her country has advanced in innovative agro-technology and the Netherlands' expertise could be provided to Sri Lanka. They also discussed other areas for collaboration, including climate change, trade and commerce, ports development and joint projects. The new ambassador of Netherlands assured the Prime Minister her prime task would be to promote bilateral ties and development cooperation during her tenure in Sri Lanka.
A silent protest was held in front of the office of the missing persons in Kolpiti, demanding to deliver justice for the families of the disappeared persons. The protest, which was held today, was organized by the Disappeared Persons Families Collective. The protest was organised in parallel to the 32nd annual summit to commemorate the disappeared. The aim of the silent protest was to demand truth pertaining to the disappearances. They also demanded the government to provide death certificates for the disappeared and a fair compensation. It was also highlighted that the relevant families were registered and delivered justice. Accordingly, a petition was handed over to the Office of the Missing Persons. A floral tribute in front of the monument situated at the Rattalur junction commemorating the disappeared was held this evening. Parents, relatives and other affiliated parties of the disappeared in both North and South were present at this occasion.
Minister Mahinda Amaravira says that private vehicles must accompany a guide when entering a national park in the country. Addressing a media briefing, the minister said that his son has no connection to the unlawful behaviour at the Yala National Park. Minister Mahinda Amaravira said that 32 jeeps have engaged in unlawful activities in the Yala National Park. He said that upon inquiring from his son over his affiliation to the incident, he had not engaged in such a trip to the national park. He said that even if his son was involved in the incident, he would not hesitate to take necessary legal action against him.
The Colombo Chief Magistrate's Court ordered the Criminal Investigations Department to submit details on the investigations conducted into a complaint on the passport, birth certificate and the national identity card of State Minister Diana Gamage. The court has ordered the CID to make submissions on the 10th of November. After considering the details presented through a motion by Attorney-at-Law Gunratnavani Nayaka, Colombo Chief Magistrate Nandana Amara Singh issued the relevant notices to CID. Attorney-at-Law Gunratnavani Nayaka informed the courts that the CID has received a complaint claiming that the passport, birth certificate and the national identity card of State Minister Diana Gamage are forged. It was revealed at the courts that the CID has submitted details pertaining to the case before the Colombo Chief Magistrate in the previous year but has failed to submit any progress of the investigations thereon. The court was informed that State Minister Diana Gamage has a dual citizenship and she is a UK citizen. Accordingly, the court was requested to summon the relevant CID officers to inquire into the progress of the investigations. After considering the submissions, Colombo Chief Magistrate issued notices to the OIC of the investigation unit of the CID to appear before the courts and provide details pertaining to the investigation on the 10th of November.
Thailand-Sri Lanka bilateral trade and investment session organised by the National Chamber of Commerce of Sri Lanka was held today. The event was organised at the National Chamber of Commerce of Sri Lanka premises. The chief guest of the event was Ambassador of Thailand to Sri Lanka, Pohan Paul. Director of Commerce at the Thai Trade Centre of the Royal Thai Consul General's Office in Chennai, Hathai Shanok Shivara, and its Deputy Director Kanyavan Sob Singh made remarks over the bilateral trade and investments as well as Thai-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. Both the parties agreed to take measures in the future to further expand investment opportunities and participate in business summits and exhibitions with the intention to enhance trade and business between the nations. President of National Chamber of Commerce, Nandika Buddhipala, was present at this occasion.
The Sri Lanka-Thailand FTA, which was initially started in 2018 with a view to reach the ambition of 1.5 billion US dollar trade volume. But that did not happen because of COVID, because of many things. But only recently that I have talked with the BOI, I've talked to the Presidential Office. It is Sri Lanka intention of resuming the talk of Sri Lanka-Thailand Free Trade Agreement, FTA, that there would be in general, in the long term, long run, you will trade in goods, rules of origin, sanitary, physiosanitary, technical barrier on trade and all that. That's some items that will be discussed during the FTA negotiation with the trade negotiation committee which is already in place.
Former President Mahinda Rajapakse says Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has continued to move forward as a political party which overcome its challenges since inception.
The former president made these remarks while addressing a rally in Rajapakse this morning. The rally was organised by the State Minister Sanat Nishantha. Parliamentarians of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna were also present at this occasion.
අපිට වැරදිච්ච තැන් තියෙනවා. මේ සියලු වැරදි නිවැරදි කරමින් ඉස්සරහට යන කාලයක්.
Former President Mahinda Rajapakse said that they received positive response from the public at the meetings held in Kalutara, Navalapitiya and Rajapakse. He appreciated comments shown by the party members for the future plans of the party. He pointed out that the country faced great economic crisis following the COVID-19 pandemic. He added that they were more considerate over the lives of the people and was committed towards them. He said that they extended their maximum to rebuild the country through development programs. He also emphasized that they have not taken any wrong decisions deliberately for the country.
A protest rally under the theme New Rising of the Argale, organised by the Joint Public Movement, was held at Hyde Park, Colombo. Many trade union leaders were present at the protest. Professionals in the private sector, trade union members, university students also took part in the protest. The rally was organised demanding snap general elections and against the selling of state assets and repression. The protesters demanded the government to provide solutions for many issues, including the high cost of living and high water and electricity charges. The rally commenced from Lipton Roundabout and marched towards Hyde Park.
Minister Nimal Siripala De Silva instructs Sri Lanka Ports Authority today to accelerate the construction of the ECT terminal to complete within the stipulated period. The minister engaged in an observational tour at the Eastern Terminal today. The length of the quay wall of the Eastern Terminal currently being constructed under the Colombo Port Expansion project is at 570 meters. The Eastern Terminal has the ability to maneuver any ship manufactured in the world at present. The project is expected to complete in January 2025. State Minister Gita Kumar says mothers with children below the age of 5 should be prevented from migrating abroad for employment.
She pointed out that the government has a responsibility towards the well-being of mothers with economic difficulties. The State Minister said that a program will be initiated to transform such mothers into entrepreneurs. The State Minister made these remarks during an event held to award certificates and extend benefits of a training program initiated under the Japanese grant. The relevant self-employment training program was initiated by the Ministry of Women, Child Affairs and Social Empowerment. Over 700 women received training under this program. Steps were taken to provide technical equipment worth 8 million among the participants.
Then cabinet paper king parliament.
A consignment of medicines worth over 100 million rupees has been donated by the International Buddhist Society of Nepal in Lumbini to Sri Lanka.
The consignment was officially handed over to President's Chief of Staff Sagala Ratnayaka at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. The relevant consignment was handed over by founding President of International Buddhist Society of Nepal in Lumbini, Venerable Nepale Maitri Thera. The stock of medicine was donated on the request of the International Association of Lions Club, District 306 C2 Balangoda Lions Club. The consignment of medicine was subsequently handed over to the Balangoda Base Hospital. Foreign news on the other side of this break.
வடக்கு கிழக்கிற்கு சுபிட்சமான விடியல் தரும் பலம்புரி ராசியுடன் கூடிய 3 இலக்கங்களுக்கு 2 மில்லியன் ரூபாய், 3 இலக்கங்களுக்கு 1 லட்சம் ரூபாய், 2 இலக்கங்களுக்கு 500 ரூபாய். ராசி அடையாளத்திற்கும் பரிசுகள். அக்டோபர் 28 விசேஷ லோத்தர் சீட்டெழுத்து. வாழ்க்கைக்கு ஒளியூட்டும் அபிவிருத்தி லோத்தர் சபை.
Welcome back, and in your foreign news tonight, Chinese President Xi Jinping says China and the United States must find ways to get along to safeguard world peace and development, foreign media reports.
The Chinese leader's conciliatory words follow after months of tension between Washington and Beijing over what the US views as China's increasingly aggressive stance towards Taiwan and Beijing's refusal to condemn Russia's war in Ukraine. Chinese President Xi Jinping, who secured a third term as Chinese leader on Sunday, has rebuked what he termed foreign interference in Taiwan and said China would never renounce the right to use force to unite the island with the mainland. As major powers, strengthening communication and cooperation between China and the US will help to increase global stability and certainty and promote world peace and development, President Xi Jinping said in his message to the New York-based non-profit organization. Xi added that China was willing to work with the United States to give mutual respect, coexist peacefully, and find ways to get along in the new era. President Joe Biden's administration said this month that China is the only American competitor with both the intent to reshape the international order and increasingly the economic, diplomatic, military and technological power to advance that objective. United States President Joe Biden said that he had spent more time speaking to the Chinese than other world leaders dating back to when he was vice president, and that the United States would responsibly manage increasingly intense competition with China and in the Indo-Pacific region, also building new coalitions committed to a world that is free.
The World Health Organization and the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control says that a new wave of COVID-19 cases appears to be spreading in Europe. The regional data of the World Health Organization showed that only Europe recorded a rise in COVID-19 cases in the week that ended 2nd of October, clocking an increase of 8% from the week before. The World Health Organization and the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control noted that millions of people across Europe have yet to be vaccinated against COVID-19. They urge European countries to administer both flu and COVID-19 vaccines ahead of an expected surge in cases of seasonal influenza. Last week, a health official in France said the country had entered an 8th wave of the virus. France's COVID-19 figures published on the 3rd of October showed that the 7-day average of daily new cases had reached 45,631, its highest level since the 2nd of August.
South Korean electronics giant Samsung has named convicted Lee Jae-young as its executive chairman. The symbolic move means the world's biggest smartphone maker will now be officially run by the third generation of its founding family. Mr. Lee, who was convicted of bribery and embezzlement in 2017, was granted a special presidential pardon in August. He was imprisoned twice for bribing a former president. Samsung Air released from prison on parole. The announcement formalizes the role Mr. Lee, who is also known as J.Y. Lee, has held since 2014. He took over after his father, late Samsung Group chairman Lee Kun-hee, after he was hospitalized, and subsequently he died in 2020.
Talks at the White House between United States President Joe Biden and Israeli President Isaac Herzog have focused on Iran, the Israeli government said, as its military engaged in a crackdown on Palestinian groups in the occupied West Bank. In remarks to reporters before the meeting in Washington, D.C., the two leaders did not mention Palestinians despite mounting tensions and violence, especially in the West Bank city of Nablus, where 6 Palestinians were killed this week. Instead, Israeli President Isaac Herzog invoked the crackdown on anti-government protests in Iran as he sat next to Biden in the Oval Office. In a statement describing the talks, the White House said that Biden emphasized the importance of taking steps to de-escalate the security situation in the West Bank. After the meeting, the Israeli president in a statement said that the two leaders discussed mainly the issue of Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons.
இப்படி வந்திட இப்படி அல்பங்கள்
Prima Kotomir Fantamai.
And in sports news, with the World T20 Championship currently underway, after a rare off day on the ground at the recently concluded encounter with Australia, Sri Lankan spin wizard Wanidhu Saranga has unfortunately dropped down to the 6th position in the T20 international bowlers rankings. Afghanistan's Rashid Khan is ranked top in the leaderboard.
Prior to the T20 World Cup match against Australia, Saranga was ranked at number 3. However, following his performance in the match, he had dropped down 3 spots to the 6th position after conceding 53 runs in 3 overs. He also assumed the top spot of the list last year. Saranga has picked up 9 wickets in 5 matches and is currently in the 2nd place of the highest wicket takers in the T20 World Cup 2022. Wanidu has picked up 80 wickets in 49 T20 international matches thus far. Mahesh Deekshana is currently at the 5th position of the T20 bowlers list.
With several matches in the Super 12 round left for Sri Lanka, injury concerns mount the team. Sri Lankan pacer Asitha Fernando replaced injured fast bowler Binura Fernando in the Sri Lankan squad, and the International Cricket Council approved this replacement.
Binura Fernando suffered an injury in his leg during the match against Australia recently. Accordingly, Asitha Fernando has been named as the replacement for the injured Binura Fernando. Sri Lanka has called up Asitha Fernando, Niroshan Dikwala and Mathish Pathirana as reserve players for the Sri Lankan squad. India managed to secure a 56-run victory against Netherlands in their 2nd T20 World Cup cricket encounter. The match was played in Sydney, Australia. Batting first, India scored 179 runs for the loss of 2 wickets. Virat Kohli scored 62 and Rohit Sharma scored 53. Chasing a target of 180, the Netherlands only managed to gather 123 runs in their innings. South Africa secured a 104-run victory against Bangladesh this afternoon. The match was played in Sydney, Australia. Batting first, South Africa scored 205 runs for the loss of 5 wickets. This is the highest team score in the year's edition of the World Cup. Chasing a target of 206, Bangladesh only managed to put up a total of 101 runs.
இப்படி வந்திட இப்படி அல்பங்கள்
Prima Kotumir Fantamai.
And that's all the stories for tonight's news bulletin. We'll see you tomorrow at the very same time. Until then, take care and good night.
Good night.